how does this concept of wealth and ownership, how does it influence asset acquisition and generational wealth planning for Muslims or Islamic clients?
Yeah, thank you very much. For the wealth under Islamic law or in the Sharia, it's more of the way you look at it from the common law. It's a bit different from the Islamic perspective, because when you talk about wealth under Islamic law, it goes beyond just your physical, the physical one or the digital one. It even transcends towards the spiritual wealth and all that. But more importantly, when you consider wealth acquisition for Muslims, there are a number of rules that must be followed. These rules are non-negotiable. So when you're trying to acquire your wealth, you do not go through usury, that's riba, because it is totally prohibited. So whenever you want to acquire wealth and you find out that there's certain elements that would make it ribawi, or that would not make it, that there's a usury to it, that's riba, then you know that that wealth is not going to be halal for you. It's not going to be Sharia compliant for your family. Also, in the game of chance, getting wealth through gambling and all that, those things are totally prohibited, as well as getting certain product like pork, alcohol, or maybe you're selling alcohol, you're dealing in all of these prohibited items, then that will be totally prohibited for a Muslim to go through that. So when you're acquiring your wealth, these are some of the rules that you must abide by. And for it to also be, when you talk about wealth and increasing wealth, in Islam, there's a concept to talk about having al-barakah in it. So before your wealth can actually progress and increase, that means that those principles that you're guiding against are properly in place, and you are not in any way conflicted. So if, for example, if you're going to, if you take loan through the bank and there's interest on it, and use that wealth, the money, to engage in businesses, we believe as Muslims that that business will not prosper. So these are some of the principles that you need to take in place as Muslims. Now, another important thing I would like to talk about, especially with a wealth acquisition, is that for Muslims, when we talk about you acquiring wealth through any means that you acquire it, it is also important that you put it in the right places. Okay, so when you have your businesses, your family businesses, you need to ensure that it is properly well placed, so that you do not get yourself involved in haram activities just in the name of acquiring wealth. And of course, wealth under Islamic law for Muslims, when you talk about ownership of wealth, the husband, the family situation where the wealth of the husband is the same with the wealth of the wife. You have this, they call it, I think, marriage wealth or something. This concept of couples having the same or co-ownership of certain assets. No, for Islam, this is totally free. For a man, you'll have your right to your wealth. For a woman, you also have a right to your wealth. This is important when you talk about legacies, when you're going to be leaving your wealth for your children. Because when you talk about miras and the calculation of the wealth, the wealth that goes to the children, it's calculated differently for the husband as well as the wife. So there's no joint ownership of wealth for Muslims. A woman is not a property of the man, and so she has a right to have properties herself, and she can acquire it as long as you're acquiring it the right way and you also own it the way it is. So these are some of the things that make it a bit different from the common law aspect. But generally, the wealth we have for it's just like we also have digital assets and all that. So the main thing that you look out for is the principles that guide the acquisition of those. So whether there's riba in it, whether you're engaging in prohibited activities to acquire this wealth, or whether there's gambling, and some of these principles have to be guided against for Muslims. So I believe that the high net worth Muslims will understand this and would even ask the proper questions, will meet the Sharia scholars to guide them on areas, because it's not just good for you to say that you want to get well, you want to be wealthy, you want to be a millionaire. The process of acquiring this is equally important, and it goes down to how your wealth will eventually outlive you. Because for our belief is that if you have a good wealth, your foundation of your wealth is pure, then it will outlive you for generations to come. And that's why we have examples of Dangote, whom their fathers were very wealthy and they are keeping up the legacy. So these are some of the things that needs to be, you know,